my brain kind of by default easily goes into places of worrying and kind of having fearful thoughts. And I actually had that realization, you can approach life differently. And I have started to put the effort in to become aware of what I'm thinking and then to change it. And what has helped me the most is surround myself with people who, even though they might feel fear, they still make decisions that are not fear based, that are based on their values. That is what has enabled me to make many brave decisions that have now led to a life that I really love.
Well, Gina, I am so excited to have you on the podcast today. I cannot wait for my listeners to hear from you and all your words of wisdom. So let's go ahead and start. I would love for you to share a little bit more about you and what led you to create your incredible book that recently came out. And we're going to do a lot of storytelling today, and I love that. So,
Yay, me too. I love stories. Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation with you. So Gina, you might hear that I have an accent. I'm German. I grew up in Germany, and I left when I was 20. But yeah, what led me to this book is, my brain kind of by default it easily goes into places of worrying and kind of having fearful thoughts. My husband is like, it will be fine, it will be easy. That's his default thinking, and that's not me. I kind of think about what could go wrong and what might not work out. Um, and I realized that in my early 20s that that's not how everyone approaches life. That's when I actually had that realization, you can approach life differently. And starting in my early 20s, I have started to put the effort into to become aware of what I'm thinking and then to change it. And what has helped me the most is to surround myself with people who, even though they might feel fear, they still make decisions that are not fear based, that are based on their values. So that's just been a huge game changer for me. And hence just I think that is what has enabled me to make many brave decisions that have now led to a life that I really love. And so that's why I thought this year in 2023, I interviewed women from all around the world and I asked them, where in your life have you needed courage? What has courage looked like in your life? And, stories came up about drawing a boundary in the family or being brave at work or treating your body differently or in love. I had a story of somebody canceling their wedding when everyone was invited already, and stories from women from India and Africa and Ireland and Hungary. And it's just been so inspiring, to hear those stories. That I kind of wrote them up and I put them in a 30-day journal where every day you have a story from someone, just a short 1-2 page story. And then those women created journaling prompts so that you can have space to think about, okay, what does courage look like for me in my family or at work or in love, So that's how that came to be.
I love this. I love your whole theme around courage because I do feel like it's really easy to kind of get in our comfort zone and not branch out. Maybe we have these big dreams and aspirations in something of our life, and that fear, worry holds us back. And so I'm so excited for some of the stories that you're going to share today. So Gina, let's start with yours actually, about your dance experience, or shall we say lack thereof.
Oh my gosh, that was, yes. So that's not, I'm actually curious if you're a good dancer. I bet you are. No?
No, I'm
Or
actually
you can?
not. No, side
Okay.
note. So I actually did do a little dance in my high school
Yeah.
years because my good friends did dance. So I was like, okay, I got to do dance too. So I can figure it out. I am
Okay.
actually not a natural born like good dancer. I
Yeah.
did ballroom dancing and learned all that stuff like in college. It was a lot of fun. But I mean, I know as a Pilates instructor, a lot of Pilates instructors, their background is dance. I am one of
Oh,
the few that I mean, I did a little dance,
yeah.
but I definitely was not like a good dancer by any
Yeah.
means. I didn't do competitive or any of that. So, Pilates for me is my dance. It's what
Yeah.
helps me be more graceful.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. I thought because you do Pilates. I bet you're amazing. That was also my association because it is such a graceful,
Mhm.
coordinated sport. Um, but yeah, I just have always wanted to be a good dancer because I wanted to be able to go out and feel confident when I dance and just feel cool and feel, I don't know, beautiful. And so I did this dance. I signed up for this hip hop dance class with this idea of like eventually I would like to dance like Beyonce. I would like to feel like her. I think that was my thought. And I got kicked out of that dance class. I got actually kicked out because I just couldn't get my upper and lower body to work together at that speed, that the song was at. And that teacher just lost his patience, and he kicked me out. And I remember sitting in the hallway outside. There were still glass windows, so I could see the others still dancing, and they could see me outside in the hallway, and I just remember feeling so ashamed. Like I'm the only one that got kicked out, and the other ones can figure it out, and I was actually a grown up, I mean, in my 20s. So it's like by now I should be able to do this, I'm not a kid. And I just remember grabbing my coat and getting down the stairs and just thinking I'll never come back, and I also will I should never go on the dance floor again. This is just a sign, that I'm just I'm just so horribly bad at that. So that was kind of my background. So every time there's a situation where there's dancing involved, I freak out. If it's like a company event and people dance, I try to sneak my way away from the dance floor without anybody noticing. And then 2 years ago, I quit my job and I had saved up money and I went on a world trip. That was a brave decision I made to leave all the safety. And then I met this guy that I found so fascinating and interesting, on my world trip. And we're talking, and oh my gosh, is he interesting? He's basically what I'm looking for, if you're looking for something like love. And and I'm doing my best to impress him with my stories and what I know. And then all of like at maybe an hour and he says, "Hey, let's go dance." And I just remember freezing, you know, and going like, uh, not knowing what to say, because the last thing I do is do something that's gonna not impress him, you know. But also I am reminding myself that authenticity is important to me. So I say to him, that's really not my strength, or like I'm not good at this. And he's like, "Oh, I'm sure we'll be fine, and then I decide I'm just gonna do it because, let's be brave, in dating. And then we go dance. And then I remember we come back from the dance floor and he says, "Wow, I never knew anybody could be so nervous on the dance floor." and and it was not good, And the thing is though, even though it wasn't good, we're married now. We just got married 2 months ago. That did not hinder our relationship from growing into what it was supposed to grow into. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. So I remember that took courage to be
Absolutely.
seen with my weakness. Yeah.
So, okay, I have to go back to the whole getting kicked out of a dance class. Okay, number
Yes.
one, who does that anyway
I
as an instructor?
know.
Like, so Gina, if I were there with you, I would have got kicked out with you too. Like hip
Oh,
hop, like the coordination, I would have been like, we got to break it down. Give me step
yeah.
by step. My brain is like, I learn things like you learn it slow and then you can speed it up, But when people
Yeah.
go in and they like got it right away, I'm like, I don't know how you do that. My brain doesn't work that way. So
No.
I would have been right there with you. So Gina,
Okay,
it's
that would have
okay.
been much nicer to sit there with you in the hallway. Next time I'm taking you to my dance class.
Okay, we'll do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
When I come out to Colorado, we'll go try a
Do
dance
that.
class somewhere and we'll bring Ange with us. Um,
Nice.
so okay, so within, everything that you do is really all about courage. So in that moment, because I feel like this is an example, and we're gonna go over more of these today, but what was like going through your head when you're like, I can like to kind of shift you from not wanting to being like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna be me. And, what's that mental shift that you felt like you had to do in that moment?
I think that it so much depends on the area of our lives. I found that out interviewing women that for someone, it depends on where you have you practiced courage the most. For example, some women might have practiced courage as a mom a lot, standing up for their kids, standing up for how they want to raise their kids. So it comes more easily to them. But when it comes to showing courage in their friendships and standing up, it would be hard because they haven't done it as much. So I think the dating one was one area in my life I had put thought and effort into this because I had been married in my 20s for 7 years, got married really young, and that marriage ended. And so I had just learned so much about, okay, how, what am I really looking for in a person? And in order to get to that kind of relationship, what kind of risks do I have to take? So I think I already had just thought it through. And that's why in that moment, my brain was quick to be like, okay, you hate doing this right now. This is like the last thing you want to do. However, what you really want is a relationship where you are loved for who you are, which means you have to show who you are. And even though that sucks, it's the only way. So yeah, I think that was the difference because I had thought about that before I
I love
was able to
that.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's realizing what it is you want in life,
Yeah.
right? And again, whether, that's finding a spouse or having a family or work or whatever it is, I think that's a big takeaway from that. Okay,
Yeah.
you've got so many amazing stories, Gina. So, can you share Abby's? She was a
Yes.
ballerina in Moscow. I want you to
Yes.
share her story.
Yes. She is such an inspiring person. Yeah, she started dance classes when she was 5. And basically she knew she wanted to be a ballerina. That as a little kid, she had that idea. And so her parents organized dance classes for her and super fast it became clear she has a talent. And so even when the parents moved away from Moscow, they always made sure to find a coach for her so that when she grew up, Abby did actually become a professional ballerina. Her dream came true. She put in all the hard work, and even though it was hard, she's always loved expressing herself through this art form. It's like something comes alive inside her when she dances, and and she has now worked as a professional ballerina for 10 years. And here's the thing, she loves dancing, and the environment for ballerinas is so harsh and often toxic. And it's actually not only, this is what I thought, like when I think of ballerinas, I think of these, movies like The Black Widow or, just The Black Swan, just that show, just how hard it is on the body, the feet, the legs swell up. I think right now Abby's actually doing 2 Nutcracker performances per day. And like the effect that has on her body, like her legs swelling up. And that's actually not the only thing. What makes it so harsh and sometimes toxic is the many, many, many judgmental comments that ballerinas have to face about their weight, about their body shape, about their art form, about how they dance. Um, and so it's very common for her to do a whole performance and then to have only critical comments about what she could have done better, like every tiny detail being like ripped apart and no word of praise. And that just makes it such a heavy, harsh environment. And so harsh so that actually last year, many of her colleagues decided to quit and just end their ballerina career. And, Abby was reflecting on this and noticed that for her colleagues, that was the brave choice, is to actually leave. That was the choice of courage. And so she was thinking about quitting too, um, even though she loved dancing, but just thinking about the future and thinking about all the many critical comments she will get and like how harsh it would be. It just felt so heavy to imagine going on that path. And so she took time to like reflect, and she does this thing, I think we called it like prayerful reflection, where she kind of puts out her thoughts, right, and kind of asks for God's wisdom on it. And the thought that came back to her was that, you know what, it is a harsh environment, but you are so focused on everything that's hard that you're also missing the beauty. Like you could go forward, do the thing you love, dance, and focus on the places of beauty in this
Yeah.
world, the ballerina world. And so then she decided for her, the brave thing is to stay, like to stay in a harsh environment and to bring light into it. And so she made some changes that I think are awesome and brave. So one change she made is that after a performance, she no longer kind of hangs around the area to hope for a word of approval, maybe from the director or someone. She goes home and just enjoys that sense of satisfaction of a dance well done, the personal pride that you can feel about that. I think that's a brave and awesome shift. And then the other shift she's made that I find so fascinating is because being a ballerina, there's so much pressure on you. So many of the ballerinas, just have ballerina friends, and their whole world is around keeping the right weight, improving their dance. That's all alive, their life. And so Abby made this brave shift where she started to look around the opera house and see who else is there, like the costume designers, the people, like the light technicians. And she started a podcast to interview these people and kind of find out about their lives, and like bring light, kind of light and community and connection into this opera house ballerina space. And so now, even though this is like a heavy season right now with the holidays and all the performances, she actually feels like purpose, you know, um, walking her path, doing the things she loves, even though it's a hard environment, but with this purpose of looking for the beauty in it and looking for
Yeah.
light. Yeah.
I love that. I think that her story is just really it's about finding, it's finding the good in things when it can be so easy to gravitate towards the negative. We just actually a previous interview, I just got off and we were talking a lot about that with, our brain tends to gravitate towards the negative. And again, in the ballerina world, and I know some ladies listening, were competitive dancers, gymnasts, or at least to like a collegiate level. And honestly, you could apply this to so many really competitive environments, really, right? And it's just like it's really easy to focus on what you're doing wrong, but it's like actually let's start focusing on the good and the enjoyment that you get out of that sport or that activity because it gets really heavy. Like we've seen it in the gymnastics world and it's it's so hard sometimes when you see, someone working so hard and yet it's like they're so amazing at it, but it's so hard on them. And it's like it's this balance. And it really comes down to like you've got to focus on the good and recognize that the brain, your brain, other people's brains are going to instantly seem to go to like what's wrong. And we actually need to really work harder to shift and be like, no, what are you actually doing right? Because I guarantee most everything you're doing an amazing job at and you're doing phenomenal, but we tend to focus on the tiniest little things that are not
Yeah.
as good as they could be.
And that is honestly brave to go away from the default that,
Mhm.
most people do, or where the brain goes, and to that takes effort and it takes work. Sometimes it feels like, to me, it feels like I'm burning calories trying to change my thinking. you know, I feel like that's brave. Yeah.
It is. It's going outside of the norm, essentially,
Yes.
because the norm of society is what's wrong, what's
Yeah.
going wrong in life. And look at all these horrible things that are going on around us. And you know what? You can always find the bad things, but let's focus on the good. Like I always love it, like in on the news here when they share like a sweet little story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. Like, why don't we do more of that on the
Seriously.
media and on the news? And like, what are good things that people are doing? And it's just, and especially I know so many people listening are moms and have kids, and I don't know, as a mom myself, it's like it feels like sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, it's just everywhere. You have to like put your blinders on, but you're like, no. And I remind my kids all the time, like there are so many amazing people out here. So don't get distracted with the negative stuff or what, all the junk
Yes.
that can get kind of thrown at them from a societal perspective. And it's like
Yeah.
focus on the good, focus on, how amazing you are as a person and all those
Yeah.
things.
Yes. Yes.
So good. I love it. Um, Okay, I know you're going to share Irina's story about unlocking mountain bliss by courageously overcoming a false belief about her body.
Yes, so that is, she's actually my sister, and I had to ask her about this because I had seen her transformation from the sidelines, and I had to ask more about how did it feel, and so her and I share this experience actually that we grew up in Germany and in school as kids during PE, classes. Whenever there's a sport that requires two teams, let's say basketball, they pick two kids. So they would pick, for example, Erica and Gina, and the teacher says, okay, now pick your team. So Erica would say, I pick, so it's Florian or Sebastian, because we're in Germany, I pick Hannah. And then I say, I pick, Manuela. And that's how all the kids get split up into teams. And then there's always like the two or one last kid sitting on the bench that haven't been picked, and basically you would go like, oh, okay, I guess I have to take, her in my team. Of course, you wouldn't say that, but that's kind of how it goes down. And that would always be my sister, the last kid on the bench. Oh my gosh. And I have to say, I hate that the teachers did that. It's just, the kid, I mean, my sister just felt like she wanted to hide, it's just like she knew it was coming, like a shame, like somebody hitting you over the head with a frying pan shame message. You know what I mean? Like the whole class can see it. You're the last one to be picked. Nobody wants you on their team because you're so not good at sports, is what they think, or is the situation. So that was her childhood. So even when she was a grown up, like in her 20s, that stuck with her like so deep in her body, that idea that I'm not good at physical activities. I'm just not good at it. And so what happened to her is that she started finding out about herself in her 20s that she loves being on mountains, just the view, the quiet, that nature just makes her feel freedom and makes her feel bliss. And that's her happy place. And she kind of heard about and started dreaming about doing mountains that require more than just hiking up a path like by foot. They might require scaling a wall, like a little one. And she just had this blocker thinking like I would not be able to do that. I'm not good at actual sports. Um, I would probably get injured. I just can't do it, right? So for a year, she did do nothing about her kind of dream to experience even more mountain bliss because she thought she couldn't. And then after a year, and I think this is so fascinating in the story, she noticed that she was not satisfied with the situation and decided to do something about it. And she booked herself 2 hours in the gym with a professional. I don't even know what that job is, but basically, he taught her how to fall off a climbing gym wall over and over again for 2 hours, like facing her worst fears, like doing her worst fear for 2 hours in a row. And he taught her how to fall in a way that you can protect yourself from getting injured. And oh my gosh, just for her walking into that and just thinking about how the coach or whoever this person is will just see her be so clumsy and so not athletic and what he will think. And she walked right through all of this and she just did it. And now she knows how to fall. And now she is sending, photos in our family chat of climbing. I think the Matterhorn is I believe the highest mountain in Switzerland, and I see those photos. I'm like, wow, that looks like Lara Croft in those computer games that I used to play. That looks amazing. And she's actually doing it and loving it, and I'm just so proud of her and so impressed for
That's
how
so
she
amazing.
ended it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so sad to me how like something that can happen to us during our childhood can really stick with you, right? Like that, like you
Yes.
think you're not good at sports because other people think you're not good at sports, but maybe you haven't found the right thing. And I love that story of, facing your fears. It's like if you have that feeling inside of you, like I just want to do this or try this, you just gotta do it, right? You just
Yeah.
gotta take that leap of faith and be like, what's the worst that's gonna happen if I try this,
Yeah.
And it's so I don't know, it's so amazing to me when you can get people to reach outside of their comfort zone, because that's what it is, right? We stay
Yes.
within our a comfort zone, I guess I should say, as in like it's almost a fear zone, right? We're like
Yeah.
fearful of
Oh, I like that
whatever it
term.
is,
I like that term. Yeah.
right? Because that's what
Yeah.
it is that holds us back from
Yep.
anything. And I think too, it's like you just have to try different things because we grow up in like the classic sports, right? But those aren't the right fit for every person. And
That's
climbing's
true.
so much fun. I love climbing. My
Huh.
kids love climbing.
Oh yeah.
It's fun. Have you gone with your sister and climbed even in a gym?
Not yet. Not
Okay,
yet.
you will
No.
have to do that. Just do it in a gym
I should.
setting, right? Start in
Yes.
a gym setting so it's like very safe and secure and you learn how to fall and yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
I'm gonna do that. I remember going to the climbing gym once and I just felt like my arms weren't strong enough to pull myself up. And then I just concluded I'm not good at this. But that was again early 20s. So and since then
Yeah.
I haven't questioned, this
Yeah.
this idea.
You'll be fine. And
Yeah,
you also, and like, when it comes to something with like a physical strength, like you have to start where you're at or you're
that's
never
true.
gonna get somewhere. It's like I talk about that all the time in our movement stuff. It's like we gotta sometimes like really pull it way back and you might feel like you're barely doing anything or barely moving or whatever it is. And like that's okay because ultimately that's going to be what's going to get you stronger. And anytime we try something new and different, it's going to be hard. It's like,
Yeah.
there's the occasional person that is just very athletic and can go do whatever. And you're like, how do you do
Jealous.
that? Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, but you have to remember, that's very few and far between, number one.
Mm,
And for most of us, you just have to try it. You have to
yeah,
just start somewhere. I think that's the whole thing. And we let all those fear thoughts and all that, get in
yeah,
our way and stop us from taking leaps of faith or doing things that we think we'd really enjoy. Or we say like, oh, we're too busy or, whatever. We make up all these excuses. And
yeah,
yeah, I love your sister's story that she's found her movement thing that's for her because, well, I'm the queen over here that would say, you guys gotta move, you gotta find your thing that keeps you
yeah.
active because that is just so important for our health, both physically, mentally,
Yes.
all the above.
I mean, now she has all these amazing stories from her hiking adventures. It makes her such an interesting person. Like she looks fully alive to me. She even really decides where she moves based on access to mountains. And she really lives this on, it's just a
Oh,
fully
wow.
alive human being.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. And I bet she's met a lot of really incredible people
Oh, yeah.
on these journeys too. And
Yes.
that's the other thing. I think like I always love these conversations. I learn so much. I get to meet amazing people, Gina, like
Yeah.
you. And
Mm,
it's so just, I think it's really easy to get stuck in our little bubble of life. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think
yeah.
it's so great to be able to expand and all of that. So
Yeah. It's inspiring.
yes, yes, it
Yeah.
is. Okay,
Mm,
so let's move on to Emily's story um, about not giving up on her stepsons, because I know she's all about keeping or helping them to enjoy being physically active,
yes.
but it sounds to me like they definitely did not enjoy being
Yeah. Oh
physically
my gosh.
active.
What you said earlier about it's so easy to focus on everything that's not working out,
Mhm.
and it's brave to focus on the one thing that actually worked out. This makes me think of Emily's story because, yeah, so they at their house, they have this rule that before you do any screen time, you do something creative, something helpful, and something active. And it's the
Which,
active
side
part.
note, I like love that, by the way. I'm like, I
Me
might borrow
too.
that.
I totally
Um,
copied that
yeah, all
from
my
her.
moms out there. I'm like, I love that. That's a really
Isn't
good
that
guideline to
smart?
follow.
No,
Yeah.
I love it. I just love when I hear about these little things that other people do. I just found out
Mhm.
our friends, when they ask their kids to write Christmas lists, what they want for Christmas, they ask them to write about something they want, something they need, something to wear, something to read. And I just
Hmm.
loved it.
Yeah.
So we did that with our kids, yeah, this year. But okay, so Emily, yes, so that, oh my gosh, teenage sons, three teenage sons. The whole idea of being physically active does not appeal to them at all. Like they hate it at the moment. Like, and And that goes so far that Emily and her husband, they said, you don't have to go like for a run. You could you could just go for a 15-minute walk while you listen to your favorite music. Um, but even that, like Emily kept finding actually the stepson hiding behind the house when he had said, I'm going for a walk now. That's how much they did not like it. And so Emily actually hit this point of feeling hopeless in the sense of like, I've tried everything. Like I want to help these kids to grow into healthy human beings, but there's just no hope, you know. That's how she felt about the situation. And I think she probably stopped trying to support him in this for a while. It's just when you run out of ideas, you run out of motivation or hope, you know. And then she decided that really who she is that she does not give up on people. And when she feels hopeless, she instead steps into creativity. That's who she wants to be. So she decided to become creative. And then she asked herself, have I ever once in my life heard my stepson say anything positive about being physically active? And then she actually remembered the one thing, and this is why this makes me think about you just talking about focusing about what does actually work, right? She found one thing where they had been to summer camp, and the summer camp, teachers organized a hike, and at the end of the hike there was a pancake bar. So they greeted the kids with pancakes, and the sons loved that experience. So Emily actually decided to do that for them. And she put in the work. She organized a hike. The husband was hiking with the stepsons, and she brought her little stove and she made the pancake batter and cut up strawberries, and welcomed them with a pancake bar. And it was a huge success. And the boys said, like, thank you. We see how much effort you put into this, and we really like value it. And it's such a happy family memory for them. And to me, it's just so brave to when you feel like giving up because you just have run out of ideas, and people are just not cooperating with you, or your kids, um, to then eventually go back into creativity and even put effort in to love people and support people that are kind of behaving in a way that makes it currently a little bit hard to support them and love them. But, you know, for you to be, I don't know, somebody who decides to not stay hopeless, but
Yeah.
to be resourceful, that is brave.
Yeah, I love that story in the sense it was like, okay, well, if what I'm trying to get across isn't working, take a step back, give it a break, and see if another idea doesn't pop in. And
Yeah.
I think so much of this whole conversation today is about stepping out of like the box of norm, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you're not good at dancing, who cares? It doesn't mean you can't learn to be a good dancer.
That is
It
true.
might just take you and I longer than someone else who, naturally gets dance and just,
Yeah.
feels it more. And I love this story because it's like, and, obviously I think it's so important to get kids and adults moving. And maybe for those boys, like they'll end up being like, yeah, I need to go actually hike and get in
Hmm.
nature. But like going and walking around the block in town is not something that, because they actually need away from all of that.
Yeah.
And
No, that's a good point.
it's really finding what works for you or your kids or all those things instead of trying to conform to so much of society and quote normal and whatever all that BS is.
Whatever. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. Mm.
I love it. Well, Gina, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you feel like you really kind of discovered or learned from all of these amazing women
Yeah.
you've had a chance to talk to that you feel my ladies would love to hear about?
Yes, there's this one thing I want to share, which to me was almost the most fascinating discovery interviewing all these women. When I interviewed women in countries that are very different than where we live, like for example, India, Africa, the situations they face are different. However, the themes are actually the same themes. So I want to mention this one briefly. I talked to this woman. in India, and her parents wanted to arrange a marriage for her, and she did not want that because she was in love, like with somebody that she actually wanted to marry. And so for her, the brave choice was to marry for love. But why that was brave, that was so fascinating to me, is because all her girlfriends that had arranged marriages, whenever marriage problems came up, they could blame their parents, and they would actually call their parents and complain and talk to their girlfriends about their parents, messing
Wow.
something up. So for this woman who chose to marry for love as the only one amongst her girlfriends, the brave thing about that was that she would not be able to blame anybody else for her marriage problems. And that's still the case. She actually married. And of course, like every marriage has some, like things that come up that you have to work out. So when they come up for her, she does not call her parents. She does not call her girlfriends to complain about her parents. She takes time herself to take ownership of her part and to figure out herself what can she change, and that, to me, even though you and I never were faced with that arranged marriage
Yeah.
situation, though, but the thing is, taking responsibility for our
Yeah.
choices, that is brave for us too. So I just thought that
Absolutely.
that's fascinating, that it's really the same themes with different, circumstances.
Yeah. That's so crazy to
Yeah,
me thinking that they still have arranged marriages.
I know. And I know
It's
that sometimes they end up being so happy, right? It's not a black and white thing, but
right.
I just thought it's fascinating in this aspect that if somebody else makes the choice for you, you can easily not take ownership for any.
Yeah.
I thought that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Taking ownership for your choices, good, bad, indifferent, in anything in life. And I think so too. It's about, and we always talk about this. It's like you learn more from kind of your, I don't want to say wrong choices, but things that maybe don't go as right. Not specifically, I'm talking in relationship, but just in general, right?
Mhm.
And, I remind my kids of this too, with like little stumbling things, whatever it is. And again, it's hopefully they're smaller things that you then recognize and you learn from them, but you take ownership of them.
Right.
And that is a very, very good point to make because I feel like I see it a lot in society. It's like it's really easy to just blame someone else instead of
So
like
easy.
just take ownership of it yourself and be like, "Hey, I screwed up or I should have made a different decision." Or, "Hey, guess what? In the moment is the best decision I knew what to make and I'll make a better decision next time with whatever it
Yeah.
is." Like there's that too. Sometimes we
Yes.
only know what we know in the moment.
Yes.
And we do the best that we can in that moment with everything that we have. So thank you for sharing that, Gina.
Yes. You're welcome.
So,
Yep.
Gina, will you share with everyone where your website and how they can reach out to you and where they can go to learn more about your book?
Yes. Yes. The website is wavesandwords.org, and you can get the book there. And I created a discount code called Erica, Erick, because German Erica is actually spelled with a K,
Oh,
but yours
okay.
is with a C. Yes.
Yes.
So Erica with a C, and you can get free shipping there. And then I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn and Pinterest, and you can find all those. I mean, I think on the website it's probably easier. But yeah, it's Waves and Words is the name.
I love it. Well,
Wavesandwords.org.
I will be sure to
Mhm.
put that down in the show notes, the code and all of that. So people know how to reach out to you if they have questions. Maybe they have stories to share. I saw that you have on your website. So women can reach out if they have stories because maybe there's another book out there in the
Yes.
future.
Yes,
I
who
love
knows? Yeah.
stories. I feel like it's so fun. We learn so much from stories and inspiration from
Yeah.
others and awareness. So I love this. So Gina, thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Erica, for making space for these conversations and for living a courageous life yourself with the company you started and the moves you've made and starting that Pilates studio. That's a huge, brave thing. That's so exciting, but scary. I mean, and brave.
Yeah. Thank you, Gina. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. So, for everyone listening, again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to Gina. You can always find me on Instagram at Erica Zeal or reply to any of my emails. And as always, share today's conversation with others because you just never know what little nugget of conversation really just helps inspire or give that person that push that they needed to go after their dream or, do something that they've been wanting to do for a long time. So thank you again, Gina, so much. And I look forward to seeing everyone back next week.
Thanks, Erica.